The galaxy always thought it understood fear. Fear was a Ravager fleet cresting the event horizon. Fear was a Void Walker whisper echoing through an empty system. Fear was the cold knowledge that somewhere out in the black, things existed that could erase whole civilizations in a breath. But what the galaxy felt that day, when the human ambassador's chair stood empty for the first time in centuries, was something older and deeper, a primal chill, the kind that crawls up from ancient memory and settles in the marrow. The silence that followed was the sort that precedes storms or extinctions. Somewhere, across millions of worlds, children and elders alike felt it, a wrongness, as if the air itself was holding its breath. On that day, the galaxy learned what it meant to fear the unknown, and what it meant when humanity finally turned away. For 3 centuries, the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never known silence. Even in crisis, even through war and disaster, the voices of 100 species filled its crystal-lit dome, debating, arguing, forging peace from the fire of difference. Yet this day, as envoys filed in, the absence was immediate. The human ambassador's seat was empty, its deep blue light dark and unblinking. Ambassador Kezra of the Altari clicked her mandibles nervously. Her compound eyes swept the room, searching for Sarah Malik, the human who had calmed wars with a smile, who had ended centuries of blood feuds with a single word. "They are never late," Kezra murmured to her assistant, her voice nearly lost in the chamber's vastness. At the far end, Chancellor Varun of the Orionid Confederacy slammed his staff down. "Where are the humans?" he demanded, his voice booming, echoed by the neural amplifiers lining the walls. There was no answer, not from the humans, not from anyone. And in that hush, the anxiety became real, visible in the way tentacles tensed, feathers fluffed, scales flickered with agitation. A minor clerk, pallid and breathless, rushed to the Chancellor's side, bearing a trembling holopad. "Sir, transmission from the embassy network. All human embassies have closed their doors. No messages received. The humans are gone." Gone. The word rippled through the chamber like a shudder. Gone? No, not possible. Humans were everywhere traitors. Scientists, negotiators, soldiers. They were the thread binding a fragile, sprawling galactic tapestry. Even the most warlike species had learned to respect the quiet power that lurked behind Earth's polite diplomacy. More reports poured in. Human trade convoys vanished from every major hyperspace route. Embassies on the Varan moons, the Chloran belt, the farthest reaches of the Perseus arm all silent, their lights dimmed, doors locked. The Council's ComNet, usually pulsing with a dozen simultaneous human transmissions, registered nothing. But static.panic began as a whisper. An aquatic Silurian delegate murmured, "Did they foresee something?" A reptilian warlord from Drath snarled, "Is this a tactic?" A crystalline philosopher simply folded in on herself, refracting sorrow through 1,000 rainbow facets. On the central dais, Chancellor Varun's voice trembled. "Summon the Security Council. This is not a delay. This is an act." He paused, as if unsure whether he was issuing a command or prayer. No civilization leaves the Council so suddenly. Within an hour, chaos was blooming at the edges of order. Conflicts long dormant flared skirmishes on the Laxian border. A Corvidian war fleet moving on a Saurian outpost. Pirates testing their luck on once patrolled trade lanes. For the first time in generations, the thought occurred to many. If the humans were not watching, who would stop the old grudges from igniting? Then the galaxy changed again. Live feed from the edge of human space, once a teeming border of commerce and cooperation, now showed only darkness. Stars swallowed by a shimmering field of energy. Hundreds of systems, cordoned off by a barrier, that pulsed with impossible power. Not just around worlds, but entire regions of empty space, forming a patchwork of perfect, impenetrable spheres. Council science teams scrambled for answers. All scans returned the same result. Unknown composition, unknown energy signature, unbreakable. Admiral Koss of the Vrani stared at the feed in disbelief. It's not just a shield. It's a warning, They don't want to be found. Ah. Whisper began among the junior staff, hushed but growing. Did something scare the humans? The council chamber trembled as a new transmission overrode every security measure, every firewall, every protocol. A voice, cold and ancient, spoke, not just through speakers, but directly into the minds of every being present. The words were clear, terrible, and final. We are coming to claim what is ours. The galaxy froze. Some screamed. Some prayed. Most simply stared at the empty chair, suddenly desperate for even a single human word. But the humans were gone. And the silence left behind was not just absence, but the birth of a new and terrible fear. Asterisk. The voice lingered in every mind icy, echoing alien. Its promise of arrival, its hunger, clung to the air like poison. For the first time in living memory, the Galactic Council sat paralyzed. Every representative silent, but for the trembling of limbs, the shivering of fronds, the flickering of biolights betraying fear. But fear could not pause the galaxy. The news spread within minutes. Humanity had not just left the council, they had vanished everywhere. From merchant quarters on Helios Station to mining outposts orbiting dead worlds, every human disappeared as if by single, coordinated command. Alien friends and rivals, business partners and adversaries, all found themselves alone. The pulse of 1,000 relationships suddenly gone. Attempts to contact Earth or any human colony met only void. Some ships tried to breach the barriers, confident in their technology, brash with desperation. The first was a Sethian scout, equipped with phase shields and quantum slip drives. It reached the barrier surrounding the Sigma Draconis system, and simply stopped. Not destroyed, not damaged, just frozen in space, its drive cycling endlessly. Its crew alive but unable to speak or move, like insects in amber. The Council's rescue attempts failed. Automated drones sent to recover the ship fell victim to the same paralysis. Admiral Koss, now joined by fleet commanders from half a dozen species, met in the old war hall. The room buzzed with anxious data feeds and frantic voices. Every probe is useless, hissed Director Sia of the Orionids. The humans have locked down their entire civilization. Not even neutrino streams get through. A ragged silence fell as Counselor Breen, the oldest among them, rasped, "They knew something we didn't. We laughed at their warnings. Now we face the cost." As if the galaxy itself was listening, ancient threats awoke at the edges of known space. The Ravager hordes, long kept in check by human patrols and treaties, burst from their exile, launching raids on border systems. The Void Walkers, mysterious and half-myth, reappeared along the forgotten routes of the Perseus Gulf, worlds that had flourished in human. Protection trembled as predators circled once more. On the Central Council Chancellor Varun's order came sharp and clear. Mobilize all fleets. Prepare for containment. If the humans will not answer, we must defend ourselves. But it was too late for containment. In Sector 9, a Saurian convoy stumbled upon an impossible sight. A ship, vast beyond reason, moving in from deep intergalactic. Dark, no transponder, no heat signature, no engine flare. It simply was sliding through space like a nightmare. Its surface shimmered, refracting stars, each curve and angle so complex it hurt to look upon. The Saurian captain, streaming live back to the council, choked out, "This is no design I know, no species." It's moving faster than the feed. Cut out in a burst of static, a single sharp scream echoing behind. A wave of terror swept the council. Barone demanded answers, but even the greatest minds, the Silurian mathematicians, the Altari cryptographers, had nothing. "It's a structure," Director Sia whispered. "No, a vessel." It single quotes S. alive. Suddenly, alarms blared across every council installation. The object from beyond the rim was not alone. Hundreds of smaller craft, still the size of cities, erupted. From the dark, fanning out toward key systems, any planetary defense that opened fire was simply snuffed out. No debris, no explosion, just silence. The ships erased as if they'd never existed. And still, the human barriers pulsed, untouched and serene. Desperation rose like floodwater. What did the humans know? Admiral Cost demanded, pounding the hollow table. What are we facing? No answer came. Not from Earth, not from the vanished diplomats, not from the sealed colonies. Finally, a flicker of hope, one of the Council's long-range listening stations caught a sliver of transmission. A single phrase, encoded in Old Terran dialect, embedded in a burst of static. Hold your ground, do not interfere. This is not your war. The Council debated, fear and pride clashing. Some argued to surrender, to beg for mercy from the approaching force. Others demanded war, if only to prove they would not die kneeling. But in the end, they could only wait helpless, as the harvesters swept across the outer systems, devouring whole fleets, extinguishing the lights of worlds. Then, at the moment when despair threatened to consume them, a final transmission cut. Through the chaos-secure, unmistakable human, the face of a woman, stern and resolute, appeared before the Council, her eyes hard as iron. This is Commander Lila Rourke of the Human Defense Accord. We told you to prepare. You did not listen. Now you must survive. The message ended, but its echo would shape the fate of every being in the galaxy. Asterisk. Silence gripped the Council chamber after Commander Rourke's transmission. Some still believed that a diplomatic solution might yet appear. Others, shaken to their core, only stared at the empty human seat, as if it might fill itself by willpower. Alone. Across the galaxy, the crisis deepened with every minute the humans remained behind their enigmatic barriers, unseen and silent, while the harvesters advanced without hesitation. The first true attack came to the Delta. Orionis Cluster, a wealthy trade region home to dozens of worlds, hundreds of outposts, and once one of humanity's largest embassies. Now, with the humans gone, only alien warfleets and desperate civilians faced the impossible. When the harvester ships arrived, nothing could stop them. Defense satellites blinked out like snuffed candles. The planetary shields once considered impenetrable were simply erased, not destroyed, but seemingly never having existed at all. Admiral Koss, in command of the Orionid fleet, ordered every available ship into position. Open fire. Everything. We have beams of particle energy, fusion torpedoes, gravity mines, all unleashed in a symphony of violence. The harvester vessels did not even alter course. Energy washed over their hulls and vanished. One by one, the Orionid ships went dark, their crews reporting strange static in their minds, the sensation of being watched by something vast and ancient. Before their signals faded away forever, the news struck the Council like a hammer. If even the best fleets stood no chance, what hope was left? Arguments exploded in the chamber, accusations, desperation, calls for surrender. The crystalline philosopher who had once embodied calm now flickered erratically, whispering, "We have survived eons, but perhaps this is where it ends." Amidst this, a new crisis erupted. The Ravager hordes, sensing the Council's weakness, launched an all-out assault on the Saurian border. The Saurian delegates pleaded for help, but their old enemies saw opportunity. It was chaos, the very fracturing of civilization itself, just as the humans had warned. Then, the impossible. A harvester scout ship smaller than the others, almost. Overlooked drifted too close to the edge of human space. The entire Council watched the live feed. The scout glided toward the energy barrier, sensors humming. It touched the shimmering wall. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the ship and everything inside it simply unraveled, atomized. Then erased from space-time as if it had never existed. The Council science teams reeled. "What power is this?" Director Ciel murmured, her voice unsteady. "No technology we know can do that. None." In that moment, another message arrived. This one was different, encrypted, urgent, unmistakably human. A transmission from inside the barrier. Piped directly to the Council's central node, Chancellor Verulin authorized the link. and the chamber's hollow dais flickered to life, revealing Commander Rourke again. This time, the background was clear. Command bridge filled with quiet urgency, screens showing vast tactical data, star maps ablaze with red and gold. Her face, once familiar from 1,000 peace talks, now bore the weight of grim command. "Listen to me," Rourke began, her tone leaving no room for argument. "The Harvesters are not a new threat. We have known of them longer than any of you. There are ruins, whole sectors we found stripped bare, where every sign of life was erased, every mind harvested and made into their collective intelligence. We tried to warn you. For 50 years we pleaded for the Council to prepare. You called us paranoid, accused us of seeing ghosts." Her eyes flashed with something deeper than anger, sorrow, perhaps, or the cold certainty of someone proven right too late. "Now you see the price of ignorance? The barriers we've erected are not just shields. They are beacons, decoys, traps. Every human colony, every outpost is armed for war. We have built fleets in secret, developed technologies you cannot imagine. If you survive this, remember it was not diplomacy, but determination that gave you a future." The council chamber erupted. "Help us," pleaded the Saurian delegate. "We are dying out here." "Let us inside the barrier." Rourke's expression was hard. "If we let you in, we risk everything. If the Harvesters breach our defenses, all is lost. Our plan is simple: delay, disrupt, fight in the shadows. If we fall, someone must remain to remember. That is your duty now. Survive and warn others." The Council's old ways of debate and negotiation meant nothing in the face of annihilation. For the first time in centuries, their fate was not in their hands. It rested with the one species that had prepared for the unthinkable, and now would face it alone. As the transmission ended, alarm shrieked across the chamber. New Harvester fleets had appeared on sensors, and the galaxy's edge was burning. But out there, behind the walls of light, humanity stood ready. And the galaxy could only watch and wait and hope. Night fell over the galaxy, though few slept. Across 10,000 worlds, the lights of civilization flickered uncertainly, and every mind was turned toward the advancing darkness. The Harvesters did not pause or parley. They simply erased whatever stood in their path. The outer sectors crumbled first, a wave of annihilation devouring worlds and fleets. Surrender was not an option. Those who tried were consumed. Their minds lost, their histories deleted. Panic threatened to become the final contagion. Within the council chamber, the last shreds of unity unraveled. The Saurian outposts called for help, but their pleas were drowned in a chorus of fear and blame. Some accused the humans of abandoning them, of wielding a power so great it might one day consume even allies. Others argued that if the humans had not shut themselves away, the Harvesters would have devoured them all together in a single glorious feast. But all arguments stopped when the real battle began. Sensors across 100. Systems lit up as the first true assault struck the barrier. Around human space, Harvester dreadnoughts, vast as moons, unleash energies that warp the fabric of reality itself. Star-bright beams sliced into the shield enough force to tear planets asunder. But the barrier did not fail. Instead, it absorbed the attack, twisted it, and sent it back. In a spectacle broadcast across the galaxy, 3 Harvester dreadnoughts were simply erased, transformed into nothing. Their mass and energy redistributed through the void as harmless light. The galaxy watched in awe and horror. No defense had ever repelled the Harvesters. The Council's most advanced weapons had barely scratched their hulls. But the humans, always underestimated, had built something far beyond what the rest of the galaxy imagined possible. On the bridge of her flagship, Commander Rourke watched the feeds. She listened to the updates from her AI commanders, to the predictions from human scientists, and she felt the weight of history pressing on her. "Report," she said quietly. The AI voice, calm, almost gentle, replied, "Barrier holding. All systems green. Probability of full breach, less than 3%. Rourke nodded but did not relax. She knew better than to underestimate. an enemy that had harvested galaxies before theirs. Deploy the Echo fleets. Authorize Protocol Ember. In hidden bays scattered across the edge of human space, fleets that had been only rumors until now came to life. These were not conventional ships, but vessels piloted by AI and augmented humans, built for war beyond the limits of flesh and bone. They slipped through secret gates, appearing behind harvester lines, attacking with weapons that bent gravity and shredded logic, turning the invaders' own technology against them. Across the galaxy, the effect was immediate. For the first time, harvester ships began to follow numbers. Their perfect advance slowed, then faltered. The barriers flexed and rippled as shockwaves from the combat bent the very rules of physics. Council worlds, still locked out, could only watch helpless and breathless as the impossible unfolded. Yet victory was far from certain. The harvesters adapted with terrifying speed. Where one tactic failed, they evolved a countermeasure. Ships once immune to harm began to phase, slipping through dimensions, bypassing barriers to probe for weaknesses. One breach, and the defense could collapse. For every harvester vessel lost, 10 more appeared from the void, relentless, cold, eternal. Rock stood before her command crew, her face a mask of resolve. We're not fighting for peace. Not anymore. We're fighting for memory, for the right to be remembered, to not be devoured and erased. That is what they want. That is what we deny them. A new message appeared on her console council. Channels, desperate, begging for admittance into the barrier, for the protection of the human walls. Baroque shook her head. If we open the doors, we all die. If we hold, at least some may live. The council's last hope was not escape or negotiation. It was human ingenuity, human stubbornness. In the shadows behind the barriers, the greatest gamble in galactic history was playing out at the height of the battle, as harvester and human ships tore the fabric of the void. The harvesters sent one final communication, this time targeting not just the council but all sentient life. The message burned into every mind, a direct psychic intrusion. Surrender, join the collective and be preserved. Resist, and all that you are will be forgotten forever. The galaxy trembled. Some broke, some raged. Most simply despaired, but on the human flagship, as the tide of battle reached its crest, Rourke's voice echoed through every surviving channel. We are not here to surrender, we are here to endure. If you remember nothing else, remember this: there are things in this universe that will not be consumed. We are humanity, and we are not afraid. With that, she ordered the final offensive. Maneuver so audacious, so utterly reckless, that not even the harvesters had anticipated it. Outside the barriers, the galaxy watched and waited. For the first time, hope and fear mingled in equal measure, bound together by the terrible, inspiring defiance of a species that refused to die quietly. Asterisk, the final hour arrived with the sky on fire. All across the galaxy, beings huddled in cities and caves and under unfamiliar stars, watching as the harvesters and humans clashed at the edge of existence. Council sensors struggled to keep up. Every minute, the laws of nature twisted anew under the pressure of unimaginable forces. Planets trembled, stars flickered, and time itself seemed to bend as if recoiling from the violence inside the human barrier. The battle raged. The Echo fleets weaved and struck, vanishing and reappearing, drawing harvester forces deeper and deeper into traps. Human AIs, thinking faster than any biological mind, coordinated millions of moves across a front stretching light years. Human. Soldiers augmented, sleepless, tireless, fought in silence. Their faces lit by the glow of distant suns and the certainty that this might be their last dawn. The harvesters, for all their vastness and power, began to falter. Their collective intelligence, so used to consuming and adapting, found itself mirrored and confounded by human unpredictability. Every victory cost them more data corrupted, tactics turned back, a creeping uncertainty spreading through their ranks. They were built to consume, not to understand. At the very center, where the barrier was thickest, Commander Rourke led the final strike. Her flagship surged forward, not with brute force, but with purpose and cunning. She issued the Order Protocol, Ember's last phase. All across human space, dormant devices awoke, quantum seeds, hidden for decades. Each one a bomb made from the raw fabric of spacetime. They were not weapons of mass destruction, but of mass denial designed to erase only what needed erasing. To turn the harvester's ability to consume against them, the devices detonated in perfect sequence. The harvesters, caught mid-consumption, found themselves devouring only void, their collective mind suddenly isolated in fragments, cut off from the galaxy and from each other. For the first time in uncounted millennia, the harvesters knew fear. Their consciousness, once a tidal wave, fractured into scattered eddies, still vast, still terrible, but no longer all-encompassing. Outside the barrier, the Council watched. As the impossible happened, the great harvester fleet wavered, ships blinking out one by one, some fleeing, some collapsing into inert hulks. The remaining harvesters, leaderless, directionless, drifted away from the galactic core, some to the void, some perhaps to plot vengeance. But most simply gone. The barrier shimmered and slowly, piece by piece, faded. The first human ships emerged scarred, battered, but triumphant. Rourke's face appeared on Council screens across 1,000 worlds, her voice hoarse but unbroken. "It's done," she said, exhaustion and pride woven together. "We are diminished. We have lost much. But the harvesters are broken, and for now, the galaxy is free." The Council erupted in chaos. Some cheered, others wept, and a few, still afraid, whispered about what humanity might do next. But none dared deny the truth. Without the humans, none would have survived. Rourke spoke again, her gaze sweeping across old allies and rivals alike. "Do not mistake our victory for forgiveness." The galaxy turned from warning and wisdom. It looked for comfort in old patterns and let fear make it blind. "We did what we must because someone had to. Now you must choose what comes next. We are not your shields. Stand together or fall alone." With that, she ended the transmission. The human fleets turned back toward the ruins of their own kind to mourn and rebuild in solitude. Their barrier would not rise again, but a new distance had settled, one measured not in light years. But in memory, and so, the galaxy learned the lesson it should have heeded long ago. There are things worse than fear, and one of them is underestimating. Those who face the darkness so others can sleep in time, old wounds healed and new alliances formed. The Council endured, forever changed by a single, shared memory, the day humanity taught the stars what it truly meant to be afraid. End of story **.